So, my name's Greaves, and I'm going to talk about my embroidered graffiti, and there's some examples of it around here. I called it embroidered graffiti because I use like the traditional craft embroidery with to kind of vandalise and graffiti everyday objects. So doors and fridges and sinks and things become like canvases for thoughts. Grab these. So it's not your normal embroidery, it's the most laborious embroidery in the universe. It takes ages to do because every hole has to be kind of drilled and sewn separately. So there's kind of like an irony of using like big masculine tools like drills and clamps, and then it being a very kind of feminine, delicate kind of craft. So none of the work that I do is into fabric, it's all into like hard surfaces like wood and plastic and metal. And that does make it particularly difficult because things like metal, this is part of a kitchen sink. So this is the like the washboard side of it. So every hole in that has had to be drilled by hand, and you have to use kind of like industrial cutting oil to get through it. Just go to this is part of like a fridge. So again, it's metal, nightmare to do. And as I said, every hole you have to drill by hand, and literally have to kind of like walk around the piece or turn it around to hand sew it.
I can do that.
This is me drilling a bath. This is a fiberglass bath that I embroidered, and although I usually wear a big kind of mask to stop all the particles and things, when I was like ripping the back off it, there was loads of fiberglass dust in the air, and I didn't have a mask on, and had a nosebleed, which was like real suffering for your art. So when I was doing this, you literally had to kind of had it between my legs go in and out, like around it, as if it was like a harp almost, you know, because it takes so long to kind of go through it. So you might be thinking, why does she do it if it takes that long, if it's so laborious and horrible? Well, I really love the kind of the newness of it, particularly because I'm a normally very messy person. And I love that you have to kind of have an understanding of embroidery techniques, but also like wood and metal work. And the fact that it takes so long, I think, says something about the kind of how long it takes to kind of express yourself sometimes or get your voice heard. So in terms of like the objects, this was the solo show that I had last year. So you can see that there's like baths, as I talked about, doors, chairs, dressing tables. So they're all kind of objects, and they're all second-hand or found objects. Some have been donated, so like the bath was in somebody's rafters in their studio, I don't know why. And the sink was like a friend of mine. But they're usually kind of found rummaging in skits, trying to dig out random things. So in terms of like the concept behind it, it's the idea of graffiti being kind of expressing a kind of political or personal opinion, but doing it in a public space. So this is about kind of embroidering and putting those personal expressions but into the home and objects around the home. So some of the main themes then about gender, about public and private, and about how we relate to ourselves. So if you're doing like embroidery, I don't think you can really escape the fact that it's a very kind of feminine craft and it has traditions of women. So a lot of my work is about that, and about gender stereotypes, what it is to be a man or a woman. Are the differences like innate, or are they brought up by your upbringing? And